From a blood test, we can tell you you do not have cancer and you will not get cancer for the next 1 year because we know the pace at which these markers grow. So if you're within a safe zone, we know that the fastest cancer doesn't move from here to a tumor stage in 1 year.
Good afternoon, Mr. Tripathi. First of all, thank you so much for accepting our invitation. It's an honor to have you as our chief guest at the Fortuna Global Excellence Awards. We've been speaking a lot uh, within our team and to a lot of people outside, and they're very excited to know about what SAR Labs is doing. It's very unique. It's very different. I know that you're traveling across the globe, telling people about what you're doing, but through this webinar, we also want our audience to know about what SAR Labs is doing, and obviously a little bit about yourself as well. So to start with, Mr. Tripathi, if you could, take us through your journey, what you've done in the past. I know your bio is massive and you've done several different things. So if you could briefly tell us about how your journey has been, and then we'll take it from there.
So Rahul, thank you for having me, and I'm a huge fan of Jimmy Mystery, and I'm hoping that we'll speak a little more about that as the conversation progresses. But look, we've made a very significant breakthrough in early detection of cancer. So we claim three global firsts. This is the first pan-cancer blood test, so it detects every cancer from a blood test. But interestingly, we detect it when it is still PET negative. So technically, it's cancer in situ, and it's stage 0. Not only can we detect it at that stage, we can tell you which cancer and where it is forming straight from a blood test. So that's claim 1. Claim 2, this is the first prognostic test for cancer. From a blood test, we can tell you you do not have cancer and you will not get cancer for the next 1 year because we know the pace at which these markers grow. So if you're within a safe zone, we know that the fastest cancer doesn't move from here to a tumor stage in 1 year. You can see the use case of a test like that. It's like a blood test all of us will have to do once a year, and we will catch cancer at stage 1 or before when it is infinitely more curable. That's claim 2. Claim 3, we're able to actually tell you mutations and dysfunctional pathway readings that you get from a biopsy of the tumor tissue, but we can give it to you from a blood sample itself. Now, this is very important for oncologists because the latest research in the US shows that as soon as you do a biopsy, you speed up the activity of the tumor. So if I can give you the mutation readings before and after, tell you whether the medicine is working, etc., right? This has huge implications even from a therapeutics perspective, right? Now, having said this, the first question that should be playing in your mind is, how is this possible, right? But more importantly, why didn't some of the larger players in the US find this, right? There were some very massive companies in the US that were looking at this. And the truth is, we're not magicians, nor are we the smartest people in the world. We just got lucky, right? It's interesting how science works. My father was a nanotechnology expert, and he was working on a cancer molecule, right? And while working on it, we were studying the pathways, and we realized that the molecule itself was acting on the small stem cell. When we delved in, we realized the stem cell is getting an epigenetic change, which is creating a cancer stem cell. The cancer stem cell is creating cancer cells. Then 1 billion cancer cells come together to form a tumor. Once the tumor forms, they shed pieces, which are called CTCs, and then they break down ctDNA and cell-free RNA. Now, every liquid biopsy company was looking for these resultant markers of the tumor, CTCs, ctDNA, cell-free RNA. Here we had just stumbled onto a causative marker. These stem cells are growing into the cancer cells. And these show up in the blood a good 12 to 18 months before the tumor even forms. And that is the reason why we've made this breakthrough, because we found the causative marker for cancer. But the implications are amazing, because if from a simple blood test, we can detect cancer so early, we can turn cancer into an early stage disease, which will save a lot of lives.
Wow, I'm at a loss of words, Mr. Tripathi. And I mean, I can't fathom that the kind of impact that this is going to have in terms of saving lives, not only in saving lives, but preventing, and the whole statement of prevention is better than cure actually applies significantly over here. What's very interesting in what you said is that you can also tell the person if he's going to get cancer within the next 1 year. That I think is remarkable. So my next question would be, what inspired you to look for something like this? I mean, you said you got lucky, but there must have been something that you were looking for when you stumbled upon this.
Actually, a lot of people, we all know people who've been touched by cancer, and we unfortunately lost a very important member of our family, my brother-in-law. If you're from Bombay, you would know him. He was the Director General of Police, Himanshu Roy, and one of the most charismatic people that I have met in my life, a highly decorated police officer. We lost him 4 years back to cancer. In fact, we named this test after him because in his case, the cancer came back after 16 years, right? And we were, of course, trying to figure out, were there signs? And to be very honest with you, we would not, the way science works is you focus on what you're doing. But the reason we actually looked for this was because my brother-in-law was suffering, and we wanted to understand, was there something that we could do which can detect this early once, and which could actually help in his cure. And we found the solution. We couldn't help my brother-in-law, but the point is, what we hope is this is going to help a lot of people, because again, a lot of people don't understand what cancer is. Cancer is actually a weak disease if you catch it early, right? The challenge is that you're unaware of it, and if you detect it at a late stage, well, the doctors will give you 6 months to a year, right? But frankly, if you just look at the survivability rates, if you can detect it at stage 1 or stage 2 for most cancers, cancer is a complex disease. There are 3,000 subtypes of cancer. But the fact of the matter is that across the board, if you look at it, if you can detect it early, right, the survivability ratios for that cancer patient goes through the roof. So, in our view, right, a non-invasive way that you can detect it early is what is going to really help the world, and that's what we're driven to achieve.
That is great, Mr. Tripathi. I'm very, very thankful. I'm going to definitely let Mr. Mistry know. We're very grateful for him, to him. He's a very charismatic guy, and I think it's definitely an honor to have you with us, and an honor to obviously have Mr. Mistry as well. We will be doing another webinar with him soon to talk about a little bit about, Della Leaders Club. My next question to you, Mr. Tripathi, would be, in terms of the journey that you've been through so far. You've told us where you are. What is your aim? What are you envisioning? Where do you see this technology that you've created going in the next couple of years?
So, Rahul, by the way, this product, it's gone live in India, and we've actually already launched the service in India. But interestingly, we already have a clinical study going on with NHS, and we have been given a grant by NIHR for a second study with NHS. Greg Simon, who headed the Cancer Moonshot for the US government, is currently on my medical advisory board, and we are also speaking with hospitals and institutions from the US for our US studies. Answer to your question is, the vision that we have is that we want all 8 billion of us doing this test once a year, and we're going to keep driving that cost of this test down, so that it increases in terms of affordability for everybody. Because our view is, look, there are people and there are investors from who've actually wanted us to price it higher. And our view is that, look, if you've ever been touched with this disease, you'll make money anyway. It's a test that all of us have to do once a year.
Absolutely,
Point
absolutely.
is, make it affordable, so that because we genuinely believe that if all of us are doing this test once a year, we will turn cancer into an early stage disease. And as I said before, you make this into an early stage disease, you will save so many lives. It is, by the way, already the biggest killer in the Western world today. It's the second biggest killer in the world after cardiovascular diseases, but in the Western world, it is already the biggest killer. But that statistic doesn't do it justice. The kind of pain that it causes the person, the family, the system at large, it's horrific. And, the only real solution is early detection.
No, I can actually imagine, while you were saying this, I can imagine there's so many people that Aditi and I personally know who have unfortunately, lost their lives to cancer. And I think that, with the kind of, I mean, it's not only, us trying or it's not only us trying to, mm, when they say for the people, by the people, I think this is exactly what defines that. I've looked at something inspired you. It is an unfortunate loss when you lost your brother-in-law, but look at the impact that's going to have, to the greater world. And I think that this is something that everybody should know about, and that is exactly what we're trying to do with this webinar. Getting knowledge from you and understanding of what you are doing. Obviously, it's an honor to have you collaborate and partner with us and have you as our chief guest at the Fortuna Global Excellence Awards in healthcare, something that we're also doing for the first time for the healthcare sector. So my colleague Aditi, she's our co-founder and chief revenue officer. She has a question that she wanted to ask you. Aditi, over to you.
Thank you, Rahul. So, Mr. Tripathi, I'm like, I don't have words how to explain the amount of the kind of work that you're giving back to the society. I'm like, it's a boon if we get something like this. And so, my first question to you would be that what inspired you to get involved with the Fortuna Global Excellence Awards, and how do you see that these awards would be making a positive impact on the healthcare industry?
So, Aditi, I have enormous respect for Jimmy Mystery, right? So I've actually had a couple of interactions with him over the years, but he is, I think you need to meet him to understand the kind of personality he is, because I think in a very short amount of time, he grasps. His questions are so incisive, and when he actually communicates the messaging. What you've discussed in such a concise and effective way that I genuinely respect him. And the reality is, he had actually heard this in the early days, and he had spoken a number of times to me about, what you guys are doing is God's work. Just how quickly can you actually launch this? And the reality is that it's a proud moment for us because we've just solved the automation problem. So to be very candid with you, we're going to be doing a massive reach out now in India because we've got the permissions to launch it in India. And we will probably be taking this technology via NHS to the UK, and we are also speaking to labs in the US. So it's from a healthcare perspective, it's a proud moment that a technology is going from India overseas than the other way around. And to be very candid with you, I had promised Jimmy that when I'm about to launch, that I would love to actually be a part of speaking at his forum, and I'm very honored that he remembered. So thank you.
Thank you,
I
sir.
think
I
it's
think
mutual. I think
on
it's the respect is mutual. Let me put it
yeah,
that way.
the honor is equally ours to have such a magnificent person on board, and I'm thrilled. I was just listening and listening because I think earlier Rahul did speak to you. He did tell me what you've been doing, but to actually hear it from you gives a different impact altogether. So I'm so honored to have this conversation with you today.
Thank you so much.
All right. I think we're all very uh, jittery and very excited to know, to have you obviously with us, Mr. Tripathi, because uh, I mean, more than us, I think you're the one who's doing God's work, helping save people's lives. One question that I had for you is what do you think, how important do you think is acknowledging contributions of anybody in the healthcare sector? How important do you think it is that we acknowledge the good work that a doctor, a nurse, a pharmaceutical company, a lab, a company like yourself is doing? How important do you think it is? Because we firmly believe that the healthcare sector does not get the recognition or the acknowledgement that it deserves and that it needs. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, collaboration is actually one of the most effective ways for innovation to take place. We all look up to the US for innovations, and there's a reason. There's an ecosystem out there that really fosters sharing of information and development of technologies. I think that's actually at its infancy stage in India. But that said, you know what, just for anyone who's actually been in this sector, if you just go and take a look at who the innovators are in this particular space in the US, and you always find people of Indian origin, right? So I think the brains are here, right? It's about developing that ecosystem, and I, for one, have publicly congratulated so many of these primary scientists, who've actually worked on these cells, right? Because look, we made a breakthrough, but our breakthrough would not have happened if there wasn't such a wealth of primary research. And and I'm so grateful to scientists who've actually who've developed this, right? Worked tirelessly to develop this. This is not something that actually my father, by the way, is the scientist behind all this, right? I come from an investment banking background. I raised capital for his firm, and the investors insisted that they wanted me to join as the CEO because they said, look, there's a key man risk here. My father was agent, and and post that capital raise, then my as the company moved overseas, my elder brother also joined the firm. So my father has passed away recently. So to be very candid with you, the success, I'd love to dedicate to my father and my brother-in-law. But both my brother and I are extremely driven to achieve what we're trying to do here. And we have a very strong team of scientists and executives that are working hard to make this happen. So look, we believe in acknowledging everyone's work, and I think it's extremely important, because if you don't, you'll never develop an ecosystem and knowledge sharing.
Absolutely, absolutely. Very rightly said. I think Aditi and I would both agree that acknowledging the work that is being done in order to improve our lives, in order to save our lives, is extremely important in the world that we're in the current ecosystem that we're in. And I also agree. I was just telling Aditi this morning that Indian doctors get a lot of recognition when they are not in India, when they're outside of India. So I completely agree with you, Mr. Tripathi, that we have the brains. I think somebody just has to make that start, and I'm very happy that we are collaborating together to do that. Last two
Now
questions. I
I'll
know.
say one more thing, because I have,
Yes,
that my twin brother is Amish Tripathi.
yes,
He's he's India's one of the most noted authors. I mean, he's been awarded because he's written the fastest and the second fastest selling book series in Indian publishing
yes,
history. And
yes.
now he's a career diplomat as well. He's the director of Nehru Center in London. But I have spoken with individuals in the government as well in India. One of the reasons that these kind of developments has not taken place in India, breakthroughs like this have not taken place, is actually patents, right? You don't develop a good IP system, and to be very candid with you, that kind of hinders the amount of capital that you can raise, and that's like a vicious cycle, right? So but I think things are improving. Let's see how they play out. But as I say, as we both said, the brains are here. So we just need to make sure that the ecosystem delivers.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, we've been speaking for a while now. Time has just flown by, so we're not going to take more time from you. Aditi, I think, has one more question for you, and then I think we can, sort of conclude our webinar today. Aditi, would you like to ask your question?
Thank you. So I think this is the most important question, and I really want to understand because I want to understand who has been your greatest source of inspiration. Take it in your professional journey or in your business academia. Who do you think is the source behind all the inspiration that you've had up till now?
That would have to be my father and mother, because the reality is that, to be very candid with you, my father, till his last day, I mean, um, he passed away very peacefully in his sleep, but even till the last day, he was working, and he was actually reading his books, and uh, and that's the kind of work ethic that he had. And to be honest with you, that those are the kind of people that actually make massive breakthroughs, because they're so driven by knowledge. My mother, who's always been there for us, and I mean, all four of us siblings, we're blessed to have actually had access to such good values, and good work ethic. And then it's about delivering, right, to your potential. So it has to be then. But I did also mention about my brother-in-law, because look, in all honesty, again, if you just Google him, you'll know he was genuinely one of the most charismatic people I've met. And I think it's a loss for the world when you lose such people before their time. And I think it's about time that the world did something about this disease. And as I said, the only real solution is early detection, and we're going to make every effort to bring this out as quickly and in as affordable manner to the world.
Absolutely, sir. But thank you so much for. I think it's a boon that you're giving back to a lot of people, because I in my personal life, me and Rahul, I think we've met a lot of people during COVID. One of my uncles passed away because he had prostate cancer. So I know how troubling it is and how painful it is to see them go through radiation every time. But I'm so thankful to you for doing such a noble thing for everybody out there. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate
Thank you so much, Mr. Tripathi. I think the work that your brother-in-law, Himanshu Roy, did in the ATS is something that, I mean, I followed his press conferences when he would take them, you know, very healthy guy, big build,
it.
and it's unfortunate that, I think he's in a better place now. May his soul rest in peace. Thank you so much for your time today, Mr. Tripathi, and I look forward to welcoming you at the Fortuna Global Excellence Awards as our chief guest. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Cheers. Bye bye.
Thank you, sir.